Hey everybody, this is Mr. Moppin coming at you with another APUSH video. Today we're taking a look at topic 6.6, which is taking a look at the rise of industrial capitalism. And previously we were, when we were in here, we were taking a look at the impact of railroads. We were taking a look at how new innovations were starting to play a role in this new industrial revolution. The various causes for the Industrial Revolution, from abundant labor and natural resources to capital, government assistance, though mostly laissez-faire, amongst other causes. And we also talked about the emerging social Darwinism, which will kind of help to explain the growing, or at least help to justify the growing socioeconomic gap that's going to be emerging during this industrial revolutionary time. Now, something else that is going to be pretty definitive in terms of, kind of defining the overall sentiment that most Americans, or at least many Americans, will have during this period of industrialization. And it does tie in somewhat with the social Darwinist theory, and that is, this consistent ideal of the Puritan, quote-unquote Puritan or Protestant work ethic. The idea being that, through hard work, one will achieve success. And once again, with social Darwinism, the idea is that if you do achieve success through hard work and talent and whatever, then you are entitled to be able to enjoy all the spoils that you are able to accumulate. And in these novels that you see here from Horatio Alger, who will be a popular novelist during the time, he is going to be, in his books, there's going to be a very common theme of, rags to riches stories, young men that, maybe come from humble origins or, immigrant past, and through hard work and determination and maybe a little bit of luck, they are able to achieve success. And it kind of helps to explain the idea, or support the idea, that America is this wonderful land of opportunity that is going to be singularly different from everywhere else. And even though, yes, there will be more opportunities here in America than most other places on Earth, you can definitely poke holes in this narrative in terms of the idea that, hey, anybody can make it through just, simple talent and hard work. This obviously precludes issues related to racism and sexism, nativism at that time. So, kind of keep in mind there's this kind of overall narrative of, justifying tremendous wealth and success and villainizing to some degree poverty in American society. Now, when we talk about the the growing power of industrialists during this time period, like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and others, you want to be mindful of the different tactics that they are going to successfully be able to use to make this happen. One of these is through the use of what we call a pool, or a cartel sometimes it is called. This is the idea of different companies in the same industry working cooperatively and setting rules to basically engage in price fixing. The idea of, okay, we're all a bunch of different oil companies, and we're all going to agree to sell our product at the same price. We're not going to undercut each other or anything like that. And if these competitors can agree to the same rules and operate under the same rules, they can then set a price that is then artificially higher than what the market would create, and therefore increasing profits. Now note, it doesn't always work. Sometimes people get individually greedy and try to undercut their competitors, but that was a tactic that was commonly used. And note, kind of the name of the game of what you're going to be wanting to achieve in business if you are, an entrepreneur, is to try to develop a monopoly, or AKA a trust. They're not identical, but for the purposes of this course, we're going to use those terms interchangeably. And probably the most famous of these trusts will be John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, a business that, at its height, is going to be dominating 90%, controlling 90% of U.S. oil production, an absolutely staggering percentage of the oil economy. And when we talk about how this is achieved, how do you make these trusts? How does this happen? Well, it's through two different processes. one known as horizontal integration and one known as vertical integration. So let's take a look at how these differ, and both play a significant role in achieving a monopoly or trust, if you will. Take a look at this graphic right here. As you can see here, the vertical arrow is showing vertical integration, and obviously the horizontal arrow is showing horizontal integration. Vertical integration works in the following manner. Let's say, for example, that you start off owning an oil refinery, similar to how John D. Rockefeller started. Now, you can be a successful, individual oil refiner, make a lot of money, have a nice career, but if you wanted to be able to maximize profit, one of the things you want to do in business is to lower costs in the production of things. And so if you're an oil refiner, you are traditionally going to be buying the oil from some type of crude oil producer that's literally getting the oil out of the ground, and then covering the cost of transportation of that crude oil to your refinery. Well, what if instead of buying that crude oil from a different company that's looking to make a profit off of you, what if you bought crude oil sites outright? And that's what Rockefeller starts to do. He starts to buy up actual oil wells. And so he's going to be able to control the oil coming from the ground, and then buy up transportation routes, oil pipelines, for example, that will then move it to his refineries. Remember, in business, you don't want to make a profit off of yourself, so you're going to keep costs low. And so as an oil refiner, you're going to be getting cheaper crude oil than you would otherwise. But of course, it doesn't have to stop there. Your refined oil would typically then be sold to a retailer, like a gas station or something like that, which would then sell it to the consumer. Well, why just stop at the refinery? Why not own the retail stores yourself and, buy, transportation routes that will connect your refinery to your, retailers? Remember, if you own the retail shop for, gasoline or whatever, a product made from refined oil, well, you're not going to try to make a profit off of yourself from the refinery, just like you weren't going to try to make a profit off of yourself from the oil wells. So in every step of the process, as you see here, literally in this case, from the ground up, you are cutting costs because you own every step of the production and distribution process. So that's going to allow you to undercut your competitors. So that's vertical integration. Horizontal integration is focusing in on one specific step in the production of something, like, let's say, for example, oil refineries. So let's just start here again. But instead of, for example, focusing in on the production and distribution of it, you begin to, through your success at that step, beginning to buy up other oil refineries. And so what you then start to do is monopolize a potential step in the production process. Now, of course, if you are able to interconnect vertical integration with horizontal integration, you are then going to be having a true monopoly, a true trust in a respective industry, and that's what's going to be happening with, for example, the Standard Oil. So that's going to be important to understand here. So once again, be aware of the differences between horizontal and vertical integration, and as these industrialists become more and more successful, there's going to be something that is going to be very noticeable. Take a look at these mergers, corporate buyouts, basically specific businesses buying out their competitors. So you can see how this is happening towards the end of the 19th century in larger and larger numbers. Well, as these monopolies begin to exist, be it Vanderbilt Railroads or Carnegie Steel or Standard Oil with Rockefeller, there starts to be a growing sense of how powerful are these monopolies starting to become. This is a famous political cartoon focusing in on Standard Oil in the late 1800s, obviously sending the message that Standard Oil has become this, monstrous entity that has its tentacles into everything, controlling business, controlling government, controlling the world, as you can see here. And so, yeah, there's going to be this, kind of a pushback to some degree in terms of, hey, is this a good thing? Yes, we applaud in America's free capitalist society, we applaud the idea of success. We're not communists. But at the same time, is this being done fairly? Will the success of a few come at the expense of the many? And, how powerful can we allow these industrialists to become? As you can see here in this particular cartoon, you can see the idea that, it's really maybe these major corporate trusts that you can see here represented by the big money bags there that really are pulling the levers of government. Think about it. You don't really need to be elected to office if you can buy the people that are in office. And there's going to be a corrupting influence that some of these wealthy, successful industrialists are going to have in government through their ability to donate to their campaigns, pass out bribes, and whatever. And note, it's not just the corruption of government that is going to be troublesome as an effect of the growing oligopoly that's emerging in the late 19th century. There's also, the sentiment of, lack of just general equality in society. Now, this might be a little bit hard to see, but if you look up here in the top left corner, it's kind of showing you an image from the Middle Ages and how peasants had to basically turn over, their crop yields and harvests to their feudal lords, their feudal masters. The many, dominated by the few. And what this cartoonist is kind of saying here is that history is repeating itself. It's no longer feudal lords on manors anymore, but it's now business owners and monopolists using factories to basically create what is now, in essence, a modern feudal social class, or serf class, if you will, a modern serf class that is basically being exploited for profit. So it's kind of the sense of, just like, feudal lords exploited peasants to enrich themselves, it's the idea that wealthy business owners are exploiting the working man to enrich themselves pretty fabulously. So anyhow, keep in mind that, there's going to be great wealth to be made. There's tremendous success stories that are going to be existing as a result of the Industrial Revolution, but one of the major concerns is at what cost? At what cost is this going to be achieved? Okay? And so kind of lastly, you want to be able to kind of answer for yourself the question of, when we look at people like Rockefeller and Carnegie and Vanderbilt and others, collectively, should they be viewed as captains of industry, people that, we aspire to be, we look up to, we view as, American heroes? Or should we view them more as robber barons, people that are going to have an overall negative influence on society, exploiting the masses to enrich themselves selfishly? Obviously you can argue both, be able to consider both. All right, we'll end it here. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.